Okay, so as we look at this one, we're on page 413 in the textbook. There's a big bio about the company Bowles Office Supply. I don't think you're going to see a coordinating workbook page, so we're just going to go to a blank notebook page. What I would suggest is you make a list of the 6 control activity principles. You need to memorize those 6 and know the tendencies of the 6. Basically what you're going to do, and take a pause in your writing for a minute, you're basically going to outline, based on page 413, where those pieces fall. I'm telling you that out of those paragraphs in the book, we're going to see 1 establishment of responsibility. We're going to see 2, it looks like there's 3, but I really can only see 2 segregation of duties, and then 3 physical control. So just write those numbers down right now. And I want you guys to just read through those paragraphs and see if you can place them. My answer key puts them in sentence format. You can just do like numbers or bullets, okay? And then we'll come back and talk through it. So as we take a look at this, you see the 6 principles listed. You're going to find 1 establishment of responsibility. 2 of the items in those paragraphs will relate to segregation of duties and on down. So let's take a look at establishment of responsibilities. I feel like I should reread the part of the chapter that talks about that. An essential principle of internal control is to assign responsibility to specific employees. Control is most effective when 1 person is responsible for a given task. So the 1 answer there, only the treasurer and the assistant treasurer are authorized to sign checks. And it says in the first paragraph toward the end, checks must be signed by either Jennifer Edwards, the treasurer, or Rich Woodruff, the assistant treasurer. That's establishing responsibility. No one else can sign off on checks except those 2. Segregation of duties. There are 2 common applications of this principle. Different individuals should be responsible for related activities. The responsibility for record keeping for an asset should be separate from the physical custody of the asset. So just like when I bought all this green screen stuff, I have physical custody of the asset, but I didn't get to approve that purchase. It went through a few different hoops. And so 2, invoices must be approved by either the purchasing agent and the receiving department supervisor. So very similar to that. Like I wanted that green screen material. Like the department supervisor would be like Mr. Kehoe, and then it reroutes to the district office for the person buying it. And then payment can only be made by the treasurer or the assistant treasurer. The check signers do not record the cash disbursement. So like I didn't pay for that. Mr. Kehoe didn't even pay for that. That came out of my business department budget. Typically it's Natalie at our school doing the purchasing, and it's Jeannie doing the billing, but they can kind of wear different hats too. Does that make sense? Okay. Documentation procedures. Let's read that part of the chapter. Basically, the paper trail. That transactions have paper copies that go with it. And there's 2. Checks are pre-numbered. Following payment, invoices are stamped paid. So basically, you can't mess with them. I mean, if it's check 100 and 101 and 102 and all of a sudden 103 goes missing, someone is responsible for that. And so pre-numbered anythings, pre-numbered invoices, pre-numbered requisitions, pre-numbered any type of documents is a really good thing. Now, there's a big cost with that. To buy pre-numbered anythings are expensive. And then they stamp paid on them as soon as the bills have been paid. Okay, physical controls are when things are physically locked or special verification is needed to even get at stuff. The chat or the little things showed 3. Blank checks are kept in a safe, only in the treasurer's office. Only the treasurer or the assistant treasurer has access to that safe. So let's stop there. That means if things seem faulty with our blank checks, who are they going to go talk to? The treasurer or the assistant treasurer. They're the only ones that have access to that. And then finally, a check writing machine is used in writing checks. It's really hard to forge something or alter something if it's a check writing machine. You've probably seen that in places where they run your excuse me, your checks through, and then they sometimes just hand the check right back to you. That's what that's talking about. Independent internal control. You remember another word for that? Starts with A. You can have internal ones or external ones. Auditors. Okay. Or just like when Mr. Kehoe does pop-in visits. He's an auditor, basically. An internal auditor checking to see that I'm doing my job. Okay, so it looked like there were 2 there. The check signer compares the check with the approved invoice prior to issue. So basically, there's someone in charge of signing checks. I think up here it said it had to do with the treasurer. Yep, the treasurer and the assistant are the only one. And so internally, that is their job. That is their internal audit, if you will. And book and bank balances are reconciled monthly by the accountant. Internally, that accountant is cross-referencing with the bank. And then the last one, human resource controls, really goes down to 2 things. Bond employees, which is a fancy word for take out extra insurance for the people who handle cash regularly. So if you are in a fraudulent situation, you have insurance coverage. And then rotate people around or send someone on vacation. And then if all of a sudden the fraud is alleviated, you know that person was being naughty. And the only one that's listed there is all employees who handle or record cash are bonded. Which just remember, look for that word bonded and HR together. Okay? That's really it. So as I just mentioned, I think on the test, I will give you this much with the 2 or 3 paragraphs, like what you see in the book, and you'll have to figure out which one's which. Yeah, good question from Mitchell. I think I'd give you this exact format. And you're going to know, all right, there's 1 HR control that I have to find in that paragraph. There's 3 physical controls. No, like if you had just recorded down here, bonded employees, I'd be fine with that. Or, you know, blank checks kept in the safe, check writing machine.